why am I here? You know, I don't belong here, and nobody around me thinks I belong here, so it must be true. And I think that's where a lot of the insecurity comes from when you're starting to be an entrepreneur. Welcome to the Spinoso podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Alex Spinoso. My experience and expertise is in scaling all types of medical businesses to 7, 8, and even 9 figures. And I'm sharing my journey with you. This isn't a podcast telling you you should do this. It's just telling you how I did this. And I hope that helps you build your business, take ownership of your life, and become a better leader at home and at work. And guys, as always, connect with me, dralexspinoso.com, Dr. Alex Spinoso on Instagram, and our new mastermind, Charismatics, join charismatics.com. Love to see you on the inside. As always, we have Miss Amanda May joining us today in the studio. I say studio like just sparingly, like I actually have a studio.
It's kind of like a
It's
studio.
my home office.
Studio, home office, workspace, dogs play zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, today we're going to talk about something that I think a lot of entrepreneurs are going to connect with, and that is the intensity, the addiction, and the entrepreneur, and how all of those connect.
Let's do it.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
We're going to dive into a topic that does not get talked about enough, but it definitely impacts a lot of entrepreneurs, especially when it comes to intensity and addiction and what drives us, and that we are just a different kind of breed. We're driven, relentless. We carry a lot of intensity with us, but at the same time, some of those things can lead to destructive behaviors if they are not managed well. So we're going to discuss that and talk about some strategies to help entrepreneurs channel this intensity into productive ways so that they can avoid falling into addictive behaviors and addictive tendencies, which I am going to be able to relate with very well.
Yeah.
Definitely a topic I have a lot of experience in as far as intensity goes. I'm such a bull. I'm like, when I make up my mind or have a decision, it's like, oh, it's it. That's all I think about. I mean, I go to bed thinking about it. I wake up in the middle of the night sometimes thinking about it. If I've decided something, like we're redoing some of the clinics.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wake up at like 2:00 in the morning thinking about what picture should go on what wall.
There you go. That's why you're in that position.
Yeah. So the first thing that we need to talk about really is knowing yourself and setting boundaries. And so this is something you know very well. And I won't get into telling your story. I'm going to have you tell your story as to why you have chosen to set a boundary and you know yourself when it comes to alcohol, maybe why you made the decision not to drink, what and how it's impacted your life. And this is also something I relate with. So
Yeah.
I want to hear from you how that has played into your decision, the intensity, addiction, and being an entrepreneur has played into your decision.
Yeah, I remember. So I quit drink. I never drank growing up. I think it was because it was always in the house. It was always around. My parents didn't drink a lot, and as I grew up and went to high school, my parents were always like, "If you want to go drink at your friends' parties, go ahead, but let us drop you off. Let us pick you up. We'll park around the block so you don't have to. Nobody has to see you, but we don't want you driving drunk or doing stupid shit." So because it was always open in there, it wasn't really interesting to me, and at the same time I was an athlete, so I didn't really drink or smoke or do anything stupid because it would affect my athletic career. As I got into college, it was the same. I played college ball, so I didn't drink or smoke or do anything stupid in college even. And then we went on vacation, my wife and I, one time, and this was, God, when I was 35, 34, 35, I think. That's when I started drinking. And it was just at like vacations because I could actually calm down and stuff like that. And I remember after drinking one night, I woke up and like there was like 17 people and everyone was naked and like 3 people were dead. And that was the last time I drank. But in reality, what had actually happened was we drank for like 2 years on and off. just social events, and never over drinking. I would have one old fashioned, and that was it. I was done. Like that, I didn't need a lot. It was more like a social thing, being around other business owners or talking business meetings and things like that. And it got to the point after a while, like I would drink and my chest would hurt a little bit. And I didn't really think anything of it, and it got worse and it got worse. And one night, I remember Brent and I very vividly, Brent and I had one drink each. It was a dinner before our first real corporate event that we had, rolling out the EOS, Entrepreneur Organizational System, in Las Vegas. And again, one small, old fashioned, wasn't even a double, very small. That's all I would ever drink. Never drink over that. And I went to bed, and man, I woke up in the middle of the night like my chest was just coming out, or my heart was just coming out of my chest. I felt like I was going to fucking die. So much so that I contemplated for a good 2 hours straight whether or not I should call the ambulance. Like it was just horrible pain. And I was up half the night just with this chest pain. And I was like, fuck it. It must be anxiety. Like it must be that the alcohol is calming myself down so much that I probably have all this anxiety from that I pushed down from just building a business and everything. And it's just allowing my body to not keep it trapped anymore.
Mm.
I can't control it when I drink. But so I stopped. So after that night, I fucking quit because it was doing nothing good for me. It was doing nothing to improve my life. It was just, okay, it was there. It was cool. But again, health wise, it does nothing. You know, people say, well, studies show you drink 1 to 2 glasses of alcohol, it might help with, cardiovascular stuff. Okay, cool. But there's a lot of other things you could take, drink or take that will help with cardiovascular besides alcohol every night. And what I realized as afterwards was it wasn't anxiety. It was actually that I had like acid reflux and it was really bad. And alcohol would just make it fucking horrible and flare up. And even to this day, actually, if I take a tiny little sip of a taste of alcohol from like a drink that Steph has or something like that, my chest starts to really burn.
Mm.
And I get it for your providers out there. Oh, you probably have this, and this. I have a fucking hiatal hernia, and I don't know what it is from. It might be from, quite honestly, pledging my fraternity and throwing up all the time because I didn't drink. Prune juice is what I drank instead of beer. Which, man, there were days I wish I drank beer instead of prune juice. That's for damn sure. But throwing up all the time probably caused issues or
Mm.
something like that. But at the same time, it wasn't anxiety, it wasn't anything, and it was reviewing that addictive behavior where was it helpful at all for me to drink alcohol during a business meeting or, during an event with other people or anything like that? No, it wasn't really beneficial at all. It was my wife used to say, "Oh, it makes you, like, calm down and actually, talk to people and stuff like that." And part of that, I think, was just that I didn't wanna fucking talk to anybody. I don't really I fucking don't. But I just got better at that. I just got better at, like, social situations and practice, asking people about themselves and talking about what their life is, and some great questions that I've read or even seen on Instagram that I learn about asking in a social situation, so allows other people to speak more about themselves. I've done that instead, and alcohol really has done absolutely nothing for me whatsoever. So
Mm.
it's being aware of that and just like, well, it doesn't do anything for me. And if I drink it, it actually makes me feel like my chest feel like fucking shit. It's like instant karma. It's
Yeah.
like, well, I don't want to do it because I'll feel like I'm getting punched in the chest.
Yeah. Yeah, I noticed like, because I stopped drinking alcohol about a year before I got pregnant, and then, of course, through the pregnancy and nursing, there's no alcohol. But I had made the decision before getting pregnant, and I noticed that, like, I would go to these networking events in Vegas, and when I would have a drink, it was almost like I didn't connect with people as well. Like, cause I was just a little bit off from I guess, the alteration of the mind and consciousness,
Mhm.
that it was like I didn't really feel like I made any valuable connections when I would go to these
Mm.
things because I was just a little bit like,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And so I started looking at that and going like, how do I, and I'm like you, it takes one drink. It literally takes a half a drink before I start feeling a little bit like, "Ooh." And by the time I finish the whole one, I'm really like feeling good. And so, feeling good in the moment
Yeah.
because I have the same, not exact same thing, but a similar thing in the sense that I didn't like who I was showing up as
Mm.
because the authentic, connected, interested, curious me when I'm out meeting people, I just wasn't showing up like that. And then what would happen is I'd get home and never fail, 2 o'clock in the morning, I'd be wide awake with anxiety.
Mm.
And it would just be one drink, like, but I would wake up with anxiety. And I'm like, worried about things that are like the most random things to worry about. I'm like, why is that even on my mind? Obviously, somewhere in my consciousness, and here it's coming out.
Right.
But I thought, well, that's not helpful. I need to meditate and figure out what's actually going on inside me versus waiting till 2 o'clock in the morning to
Yeah.
figure it out.
Yeah.
And then that was affecting how well I slept.
Mm.
And then if I wanted to get up and work out, and I'm like, this has a lot more negative impacts
Mm.
on my desire to build my business and grow and be successful than what I'm getting out of any benefit, if there is any, which I couldn't see any. And so, yeah, I think though, uh, when it comes to, while it doesn't sound like either one of us were really addicted to alcohol, it's the addictive tendencies, the go hard kind of, everybody's out doing it. And so you feel like, you're in this setting to actually have a drink, but it's like having the boundary that, no, I don't really need to do that. And I think it also gives people the freedom then to not do it with you. Cause
Mhm.
if you go out and you're having a business conversation, someone's like, "Hey, you want to have a drink?" And you're like, "No, that's okay. I don't." They might also be like, "You know what? I don't need to either."
Mhm.
But it's just become like a social norm to have alcohol when you go out somewhere. So, it's interesting where to recognize excuse me, if you do have addictive personality traits. And as an entrepreneur, sometimes that just shows up in different ways. When and how to set boundaries so that you're not vulnerable to those things showing up in your life that are negative for where you want to be.
Absolutely. 100%.
So self-awareness is essential to staying on track. There's an interview that I really like from the rapper Logic. Do you listen to rap music?
Oh, yeah. Listen to Logic. He's amazing.
Okay. Yeah. So you're going to get this. So in an interview, he talks about the key to his success. And he says very simply, I stay at home. It's my homies, my wife, my kids, my new little puppy. And that's it. Like I don't F with anybody. I don't go out. I barely leave my house. Pretty much he stays contained. And that's because he doesn't want any sort of cancer to spread in his life. And so, what do you think of that kind of advice, and how does something like that show up in your life? Like,
Yeah.
what do
Well, you're
you?
the same way. I mean, I think I'm the same way too. It's as you level up, you have your uh, different areas that are protected. For us, it's the home. I have my home office here, so I get to work at home. I'm blessed to do that. And I've got my kids here and my wife, and I've got a little gym set up. And like, I don't really need to fucking leave. I don't. Most of the time, I don't leave because, again, we have business meetings all day long. Like, I could run everything from my office, working with vendors, etc. So I don't have to leave, but that's the life I built and that's the life I want. If I leave and go to lunch, it's very rare with people. Most of the time, it's people that I'm doing direct business with. I don't really go and speak with other entrepreneurs or go to lunch or dinner with other entrepreneurs that are in other verticals that are outside of my businesses. If I do, it's super rare, like once or twice, maybe a quarter, if that. And it's just usually because my wife makes friends with somebody and they're like entrepreneurial. And it's like, okay, let's go out to dinner with these people. But most of the time, I don't because I don't, again, I don't need that. My limited time I have, I want to go to dinner or lunch or have connections with people that are directly related to my business and that we could benefit from each other. And it's not a selfish thing where it's like, oh, you only want friends that you can benefit from. Yeah, but that's pretty much fucking it at this point.
Mhm.
Like, cuz other people you're not what social being just social in general. No, I want to grow the business and make more money for my family and my colleagues and my team. And I think exactly what logic is saying here is the same shit that I do. I don't go to parties. I've missed a ton of weddings. People just don't invite me to shit anymore because they know I'm not gonna fucking go. And that's fine. Like I don't want to. I really don't want to. Cause sitting there at a party where everybody's drinking and they're just talking about themselves, I really don't fucking care. I don't care about you. Like if you're not in my circle, or on my teams, I don't have to care about you.
Mm.
Like I really don't. So, protecting that space, I think, is really important for people to have that to go home to all the time. And I think you're the same way when it comes to that, right?
Yeah, I don't leave my house. I've actually considered, like, buying a car, like a nice fancy luxury car,
Yeah.
because I have my FJ, which is totally cool. Like, in Vegas, I went off-roading and, I would go on ski trips and stuff, so it was a really good vehicle for
Yeah.
that kind of lifestyle.
Hmm.
Um And then I came here and it's like there's nowhere to ski
Yeah.
really in Texas, so
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. I got to
not
go up
doing
north
those.
to Oklahoma.
And then with a 1-year-old, there's not really like me road tripping by myself anymore. Not a
Yeah.
thing. It's
Yeah.
just not a thing.
Hmm.
And so I've thought about buying a car and then I'm like, where am I gonna drive it?
Yeah.
Where do I
Where am I
go?
going to go?
The only place I go is to film the podcast twice a month. And so yeah, you
Right.
don't really care if I have a new car.
No,
And
I don't
so
care either. It's
yeah.
if that's what you want, that's what you want. Good for you. Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't leave either, but I think that it does mean that my circle stays pretty small, but it does create the boundaries as well where my time is valuable and the boundaries around my time in the sense that when I have attention to put on something, I want it to be something that's moving me forward. It's that because I'm like I said, I'm up in the middle of the night thinking about what picture is going to go on what wall. Well, you have to implement that. And so as an entrepreneur, there's so many things that you have to put your attention on in a day that all of the other things that can take away from that, it's just distraction. So, being that driven, addictive personality in our business is where the success comes in. And I
Hmm.
think that's what sets people apart when, they've got mediocre results versus extraordinary results.
Hmm.
It's like be addicted to your business, be
Yep.
addicted to growth
Yep.
and personal, professional, business, whatever that is, be addicted to the right things, the beneficial, the productive things.
Yeah.
And that's really what this conversation today is all about. Um, Something that drives addiction from a negative standpoint, though, while we're talking about some of the positive things, something that drives it really is insecurity.
Mm.
And where do you think that entrepreneurs have the biggest insecurities?
I think entrepreneurs in general start with the insecurity of imposter syndrome. Like, I'm going to start this business, or I'm trying to start this business, I'm trying to get it off the ground. And usually nobody around them has started a business or done a business. And so their friends think, oh, you've changed. You're only worried about this business now. You're only worried about money. And then the family's like, well, why don't you get a real job sort of thing? Why are you focused on this thing? It'll never work, etc. So I think insecurity comes a lot from young entrepreneurs externally, where people are just telling them, well, don't you have enough? When is enough enough? Like, why do you want to do this, etc. And they start to think about themselves as, why am I here? You know, I don't belong here, and nobody around me thinks I belong here, so it must be true. And I think that's where a lot of the insecurity comes from when you're starting to be an entrepreneur.
Mm. Listening to other people. And then those things just play over in your head. When you have somebody tell you when is enough enough, like what happens in your mind?
Now, I just ignore it. you know, when people ask when's enough now, there's never enough. I just say there isn't enough. I mean, there's always more people we could employ, more clinics we could build or buy, bigger companies I can build, and more people I can influence. So if you think about it that way, there's really no end. There's no, it's a difficult thing because not with addiction to like drugs or anything like that, but I have an addictive personality to winning. And so I made the mistake 1 year of trying to play World of Warcraft. Have I ever told you this
No,
story?
I don't
Oh
know.
shit.
We
No.
should hear. I want
I
to
don't think I've
hear
ever
it.
told this story.
I want to hear this.
So I tried to play World of Warcraft in college. During our sophomore summer, you are forced to stay at Dartmouth during the sophomore year, between sophomore and junior year. It's called sophomore summer. It might be between freshman and
Why?
sophomore. I don't
Well,
know.
okay, let's pause there. Why?
Because the city will close down if there's not college kids there, because it's a
Oh,
tiny little town.
I
So
see.
if there's not somebody injecting money into the infrastructure, the city will pretty much like close down. That's why.
Okay.
And so as a result of that, the we're stuck there during the summer. It's only our class, and the school's small. It's only 5, 6,000 kids at the most. So it's like 1,000, 1,500 people in your class, and we're there during the summer. And one summer we're just like, okay, and it's super lazy. Like the classes are a joke and shit like that. So I ended up watching, the first. But back then it was like 20 seasons. Now there's like 30 or 40, but 20 seasons of South Park because I had never watched it before. So like my buddies and I like watched 20 seasons of South Park
Wow.
straight for like 2 weeks, and then we started playing like Halo and huge games like that. And one of the things we did was get into a game called World of Warcraft. And World of Warcraft is an MMORPG, so it's like multi-modal level play. I don't even know the phrase for it. Do you know it? You're a nerd over there. What is it?
Let me hop on the mic here.
Okay, here we go.
So you basically everyone's on the same playing
Server.
at the same
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, no, it's just like a
It's
big.
like a online player game. It's
Yeah,
like
it's meant to be
it's like
like
The
a.
Sims, but like badass, where there's just a whole bunch of people from all over the world playing. And obviously 24/7 because there's just worlds there, and then people just like interact in the worlds. There's tons of quests and shit to
Mm.
do, etc. It's a massive, massive game, and as the way that the game is built is that you level up, and you level up fighting people, you level up getting different armor, you level up doing all these different group activities, or group they call them hordes, things like that, where you can level your character up, and the whole point is to level your character up. The problem with the game is that there's no winning. There's like no end. You just keep fucking leveling up,
Mm.
like almost forever.
So it's just like a virtual reality, really.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
just
it's
and you
just like
just never.
reality. Like there isn't a
Mhm.
fucking end to it. Like
Okay.
the end is death, and your
Okay.
character cannot die. They die in the game, but then they respawn, and it's like, okay, I just do this again. And so there is no end. There's no like
Huh.
getting to a level where you get more respect, or you have more hit points, or more stamina, or whatever, but there is no like end. Like I won and the game ends and you start over. There is no fucking end. You just continue to grow, continue to see other worlds, and then they have like additions to the world, so you can get different booster games and packs that attach to the main world, and you could just go look at other worlds, and these are like legit fucking worlds, like, and your character can't teleport sometimes, so you're like running or walking from one world to another, like it's fucking,
Mm.
sometimes you're walking for like an hour to get from one part of the map to another part of the map, literally. So like, not joking, it's a fucking world.
Okay.
And so
Wow.
but then the problem is that there's no fucking end. There's no way to win. So my addictive ass personality is like, I'm gonna fucking win this thing, yeah. And after like 3 months of not seeing the sun and getting like C's in all of my sophomore summer classes that were jokes, and then realizing one day that the highs and the lows of my day happened in the world,
Mm.
That's when I realized that this is fucking bad. I am fucking addicted to this thing. Holy shit. And I was playing like 12, 14 hours a day. And it was like, I can't, and the best days were those where I did well in the world, and the worst days were those that I did terrible in the world, like in a fucking virtual reality world. And
Wow.
I realized that that addiction is just like fucking terrible. Maybe I was looking for something, maybe I had some insecurity, I don't know. But yeah, that's the problem with the addictive behaviors is that you don't realize it until really fucking late sometimes.
Yeah, and then you're in it and you're like, I haven't seen the sun.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
this is never going to end.
Mhm.
That is probably how a lot of people feel in addiction. I struggled with addiction after my father passed away, and I talk about this on one of our earlier episodes. But for those of you who have not tuned into that or listened, I will share a little bit. Um, that uh, when my father passed away when I was 16, I really didn't know how to manage the pain of the loss, and so I turned to drugs and alcohol. And it was something I had seen. My father passed away from drinking,
Mm.
and I had seen drug use and alcohol addiction. I mean, even to this day, my mom's a recovering alcoholic and in a 12-step program, and brother. And I mean, so it's been through my family. And so when my father passed away, it was just like a natural thing. Like, well, how do you get rid of the emotions that you don't want to feel? Well, you numb them. And that was how I did it, was drugs and alcohol. And so that went on for really, I'd say pretty strong for almost 2 years. And I mean, it's it was crazy how it does. It's like all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, what's happened?" Over the last couple years. And I ended up pregnant with Isaac, and thankfully, because that was what made me open my eyes and wake up. But it's that personality. Once I started experimenting with drugs and alcohol, that was it. I was all in. And after having a child, luckily, I would say luckily, because it's not luck that happened to me. It was a decision that I made to put my attention and energy toward this human being and bettering myself. I became very focused on growth. How could I be better than I am today? And so diverting all of that energy and attention from a negative aspect of like the addictive personality stuff in pursuing the wrong things, I was like, how am I going to pursue the right things? And, there was a lot of healing that needed to happen through that time to overcome and really deal with the loss and some things from childhood. And so, but it is a deliberate decision.
Mhm.
And I think that as an entrepreneur, there are a lot of people that have that addictive personality, and that's why they're going after what they want, but then recognizing when anything, it doesn't even have to be alcohol, it could be food, it could be the television, it could be your phone, it could be social media, whatever you're putting extreme amounts of attention and energy on that you're addicted to, is it helpful in your life? And I think there's a helpful type of addiction that can come with being an entrepreneur, being addicted to success. I mean, at least if you're going to be addicted to something, have it be something positive. Because I think when you've got people that have those tendencies, it's going to go somewhere. That energy has to go somewhere because it's in us. So
Mhm.
it's like,
Mhm.
where are we gonna put it?
Yep.
And um, so recognizing that it has to go somewhere, and that if it's coming from a source of insecurity, dealing with the insecurity instead of just covering it up, is a super important place to start. Um, and then with that, going back to my statement on channeling that to a positive place. So we kind of talked about the negative aspects of what addiction can do, but like channeling all of that attention to a positive place. Where do you see that showing up in your life? Where are you most addicted to something that's positive and helpful?
Now it's building business. I am addicted to building the businesses and really growing the business, and as a result of that making more money not only for the business but also for my teams. It's almost like a game now, where it's like, how much can we possibly do, how much can we possibly grow, what are the different levels that we can do now, can we take over other people's games and control their chessboard too. Now it's that's what it is. That's what I get really addicted about. That's what I love to do. I love to do business. I love to learn about business. I love to grow and be and work on the business rather than be in the business. And so that's really where I've channeled my addictive behaviors, really. And we've had a lot of success, but there's still a lot to go. But at the same time, I wake up and I'm on my phone answering emails or right away, or you know, making sure I'm combing through what I need to get done for the day. And I'm up late at night looking at things that we need to do the next day or the next week, or et cetera. So I'm consistently addicted to the business and growing businesses now.
How do you feel like that's impacted your family in your marriage?
Yeah, negatively for sure. Like I see my kids. I mean, even though I work at home, I see, and I'm lucky because they get to come and say hi, and they get to come and I stop for them. And if my wife calls me while I'm on a trip, I'll stop and FaceTime her with the kids and stuff like that. But it has negatively impacted in the fact that I don't have as much time for them. A lot of times I do schedule the wife and I schedule date night every week, and it was on Friday, but we moved it to Tuesdays cuz I was out on trips every Friday. So we stopped having our date nights for a while cuz I was gone. So we would try and have like date lunch or squeeze it in where we could, but now it's on Tuesday nights, our date night, we moved it. And
There's probably
like
less people out. That's
oh,
kind
yeah,
of a
there's a
good
lot less
thing.
people out, like, Tuesday nights and stuff like
You don't
that,
really need
because we usually
reservations at the nice restaurants on
yeah,
Tuesday
yeah,
night.
we
That's
usually go
good.
at, like, 5 p.m. anyways, so it doesn't affect us, like, we're old people, like, we're not going out seeing a band at, like, 9 or 10 o'clock at night. It's usually not we're usually not making it that far, because we like to go out to date night, come back, put the kids to bed at
Mhm.
8, 8:30, and then go to sleep. Oh god, I'm yawning because we were up late last night with the kids. We've got visitors in town, so they were up until like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and
Mm.
it's like when that happens, I'm dead. We go to bed past midnight for sure. It's guaranteed like 2 hours just to clean up, get straightened up, get ready for the day tomorrow, do whatever little work I got to do. So it's about a 2 hour gap between when they go to bed and when we go to bed, always.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do see my kids less. I do see my wife less. I do travel a lot for work now. But I think about it this way in my head right now. My kids are about to turn 3. They turn 3 this weekend, and they'll be 3 by the time this show comes out. I They won't remember anything until they get around 5. I might remember things, but they won't. So if I can do as much as I can until like they start to remember and stack up uh the money, stack up the teams, the ability for other people to do the jobs that I am doing on a daily basis and put those people in place, then when that occurs and they start to remember, then I will have the time to be around them and focus on them because I have teams that are doing
Mm.
what needs to be done for the businesses to grow. That doesn't mean I'll stop, but at the same time, that's the fucking reality of a business, and people don't understand that. Like, oh, I want to be in your position. Cool. Like, do you never want to see your kids? Do you like even if you work at home? Do you like want to have very little time with your wife at the end of the day? Things like that, and they're like, oh, it's not a must be nice because people don't say that to me at all. I know some people do to other people, but people don't say what must be nice to me because I show a lot of that shit. But at the same time, it's oh, I wish I could be in your position, or how can I get to your position when other entrepreneurs, especially the people in the listening to this who are medical entrepreneurs, like, how do I get to your position? I want to be there in 5 years. And it's like, do you really want to be there in 5 years? Because if you do, then you'll care about nothing else.
Mm.
Like, if you have a favorite TV show, you can't watch it anymore. Do you like to go to the movies? You'll never do it again. Do you like to make sure that you're there for every single thing that your kids have, like play or whatever, every single thing? then don't fucking do it. I missed our kids' Christmas play on Friday. Um, Steph sent me videos. They didn't do a fucking thing. They just kind of stood up there
That
staring
would kind of look like maybe she was a little into it.
a little bit,
A
but like
little bit.
she did it way
A
more
little
last year.
feet.
This year they just didn't fucking care. It seemed like they just stood there the whole time. Thank God I didn't go be yelling at them. Hey, move something up there. Damn it. Fuck. Um, but that being said, you're gonna miss those things. You're gonna not. You're not gonna. Do you like hanging out with your friends? Well, say goodbye to fucking all of them.
Mhm, mhm.
It's just how it is. You're not going to have friends. And the friends you have, you'll see them very little, but the friends you have are the ones that are like, you don't have, they don't, not fucking high maintenance. They're not going to be like, why aren't you going out with us? Because they're like, I got fucking shit to do too. Like we could have lunch and it's like 30 minutes and we're looking at the clock like, okay, cool. This is fun. Let's move on.
It's been good.
And that's
Yeah.
very rare as well. So you got to ask yourself, do you want all those things if you want to be in that position that someone else is? Because that's everything that they gave up.
Mhm. Yeah. So it sounds like being addicted to business, it has a trade-off.
Yeah.
There's trade-offs.
Just like everything, being addicted to fucking anything, there's trade-offs.
Yeah. Yeah. And really assessing what the trade-off is and if the value is there, maybe on the other end of it.
Mhm.
And if so, then it's worth the time and attention when you're doing it. So you can have what you want on the other side. In light of what we're talking about here, there is a concept, work hard, play hard.
Mm.
And what do you think about that piece of advice?
I like that. I think it's you know, a lot of entrepreneurs in general are really we're intense. So you're going to go balls to the wall when it comes to business and balls to the wall when it comes to partying. Everybody's watched if you haven't, you should. Great show on sales and everything like that, and a funny story, The Wolf of Wall Street. So they're just going to be entrepreneurs they're making a ton of money during the day and they're partying like fucking psychos at night. All the shit. And that energy that you have as an entrepreneur has to go somewhere. And if you don't channel it into something positive, it's gonna end up being negative shit like the Wolf of Wall Street, drugs and hookers and shit like that. Because I see my colleagues
Mm,
doing stuff like that. It's very real. It's very fucking real because you're always chasing the high. And there is a couple different ways that people have measured happiness and long-standing happiness. And in one of the studies they had there's three different types of happiness. There's the like short-term rock star type happiness where you're always chasing the next high, living fast, dying fast, doing the drugs, crazy sex, all that shit with a bunch of people. That's like that short high. Like and that's why a lot of rock stars and stuff like that always have that type of history. They're chasing that high of being on the stage the next week and getting in front of crowds and partying and stuff like that. And then during the week there's like nothing. It's like coming, it's up and
mm,
down high. And when happiness was studied, they show that that is the shortest uh amount of happiness, in terms of time frame, and the least amount of happiness in terms of like whether you're fulfilled or not. Things like that, chasing that. The longest term happiness and the most fulfilling things were something that people were a part of that were bigger than themselves, like a mission, a
mm,
vision, something that they could always work towards and never achieve. So the work hard, play hard, I think is important. And you know, I get it, I understand it, but at the same time, it's channeling that play hard into something that is also valuable that we've talked about in the past, fills your cup up rather than drains you. Drugs, alcohol, crazy life, that shit drains you. After a while, you're gonna get burned out. It doesn't fill you back up because it's empty, it's transactional, it's not long-term relational. So finding those other outlets for that intensity, whether it's a hobby or whether it's diving into something that you're building for yourself, that's where I think that's really where you need to focus your that intensity, that play hard part of it.
yeah, and I mean, I feel like we play hard in Genesis. Like everybody works hard through the year, and twice a year we get together and we play hard. We spent last summer in Nashville doing some of the coolest things as a group.
Hmm.
And then it was more actually that was last year.
Yeah.
This year, this past summer,
Hmm.
we were in Frisco at the golf course
Hmm.
and had some amazing times, whether it's the golfing things like Top Golf, food, tons of food. I love food, so food gets me very excited. Um Ed Sheeran, like concert, box seats, like we played hard,
Hmm.
so while you have that expectation of work hard with our teams, there's also work hard because we're going to play hard and
Yep.
we're going to celebrate this. And
Absolutely.
so, I think that can go not just from a personal standpoint, that concept, but also from a business standpoint. If you're a leader, entrepreneur, and you want your teams to work hard, then give them some benefit on the other end and let them play hard too.
100%. You're right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The other way we could always talk about that is, go hard towards something positive, which is what we've really been talking about through this entire podcast. Anyway,
Hmm.
it's really about do it, have the addiction, but go for the positive addictive things instead. And then you touched on it. And I think that the next thing that we really need to discuss is finding a greater purpose
Hmm.
and the value in that, and how that leads to integrity and it leads to a lifestyle that you can have addictive tendencies, but they're used in a positive way.
Yeah, just like I kind of touched on before with that happiness, formula, the people who were the happiest for the longest period of time had a passion. They had a why. And it's very played out, I think, but that Simon Sinek book, Find Your Why, is I think very important for a lot of people. It's like, what are you getting out of bed for? And at the beginning of your business, it could be cool to get out of your bed for a Lamborghini, get out of your bed for a nicer house, get out of bed for better things for you or your wife, whether that the materialistic things. That's totally fine. Like people were like, "Oh, well, that's not gonna make you happy." Yeah, it fucking will. Like, yeah, it will. Trust me, it will. It does. But at the same time, then as you grow, that starts to evolve into, okay, how are we doing? What are we doing for somebody else? How are we doing this for the team? How are they improving themselves? And that's the why more where it's like the more like you're talking about, if you say yes to something that's negative, then you're saying no to something that in your life is probably positive, and vice versa. If you say no to the alcohol, the drugs, or whatever, you're saying yes to a healthier life and a more focused life. And same with your time. If you say yes to this party, then you're saying no to working on your business or moving your business forward. If you say no to that same party, then you have extra time for your business. You have extra time for your team and moving your staff forward. And it will continue to improve when you make those little decisions one by one that go towards your why. And so my why partially is because I want to show my children what's possible. I want them to see that they could do anything that they possibly want as long as they just work their asses off for it, no matter what. And it's a very different mindset than nowadays. Like the government will pay for everything. Fuck it.
Mm.
It's like, no, there's winners, there's losers. And do you want to be a fucking loser or do you want to go out and fucking win? Period. Like, and we fucking win in this family. That's what we do. That's how we do it. We might, there's, and we don't win by never losing. We win by taking a fuckload of fucking losses. That's for sure. But that's part of who we are. It's fighting. That's the fighters in us. That's the tiny little people that are angry all the time. The lollipop guild that we are. But on top of that, like I want I want to give my wife everything she wants and deserves and needs to feel safe. And then beyond that, I want to give my teammates and my business partners and everything things that they want. And a lot of times I dream up shit like, man, it would be cool to give this person this gift or buy this person that gift. Things that are just I know are big gifts like a car or a house or things like that. And it's like, okay, what do I need in order to do that? I need to make more money. I make more money so I can bless other people and hire other people and people that don't have. Uh, for us, we have friends and colleagues that maybe don't. Excuse me. For us, we have friends and colleagues that maybe don't have work right now or need help, and it's like, okay, I could help that person, or I could get them a job, or I could
Mhm.
improve their families' lives, and as a result of that, my influence grows, and it's not like Instagram influence, it's real influence, like really improving people's lives, not just showing them pictures and videos on a fucking Instagram channel. So that's really what drives me now. It's like getting clear on what we want, what I want out of life, and that's still always going to change. You're still always going to figure out, well, I'm not sure what I want. I'm not sure what direction I'm going in, but you're less likely to waste your time on shit when you start to think, what do I really want? Is that
Mhm.
party really going to help me in any way? Is, you know, that purse or the pair of shoes or that car really going to help me with what my vision is for my life? If it isn't, there's no need for you to buy it. You're buying it
Mhm.
or even thinking about it because somebody else, that's their vision for their life. That's what they want. And you're just trying to copy that because you're trying to figure out what you really want.
Yeah, and so you're talking about, will this thing get me what I want? And we've talked about trade-offs too. A wonderful concept I've heard is don't choose handbags over houses.
Mm,
And I think about how many handbags I've purchased over the last even 5 years, and most of them sit in the box in my closet, because I have my one black handbag that I use for everything, and then the other ones are just like, you know, fancy if I'm going out, which I don't do anymore, so they just sit there.
yeah.
Um but I've calculated, like, that could have been a down payment on a house.
Hmm.
Now, a little here, a little there over the last 5 years doesn't feel as crazy. Like, I did at the time, I didn't have an intention to purchase a home. So it made sense at the time. But now that my goal has changed and my driver for purchasing a house is on the forefront, I think about every dollar I spend. And if I spend it on a handbag, that means that the house is that much further away. And so I think that's a really great, like, it's just a good reminder for me. Anytime I want to buy something, like, am I choosing that over that?
Yeah.
And, you
It's
know,
another phrase, another way to put it is never work for the same dollar twice. Because if you're buying the handbag again, you have to make the same dollar again to go buy a house. But if you
mhm.
buy a house, then you have an asset that is much more sellable than usually a handbag is.
Yeah.
But that's a
Yeah.
great, great point. 100%. I love
Mm.
that phrase.
Yeah. Yeah, so good. Not I mean, not that I have a desire to buy any more handbags, because, like I said, it's the same thing I think to myself about buying a car. Where do I go?
Yep.
I'm gonna wear this new handbag to Costco. That's about where I find myself, grocery shopping a lot. So, to recap a little bit on the last point that we talked about, and that's, finding a purpose, is, uh, when you have a purpose, it's going to pull you away from destructive behaviors.
Mhm.
And when you can focus on that, then you're putting your time and energy towards something meaningful. And so when it comes to addiction and being an entrepreneur and the intensity that's there, take that intensity, make sure it's pointed the right direction so that you're getting back what it is you want from the things that you're putting your time on. Um, because everything has a trade-off, either positive or negative. And so you have to decide that. And so from a very real standpoint, if somebody's listening to this, if you're listening to this and you are struggling in any way with addiction and you need help, seek guidance, seek a 12-step program, seek a support group, a church group, rehab center, depending on how intense the addiction is for you. But while we brought light to some of these things, if you are listening and you are struggling, get the help that you need. get the support that you need. There is a way to overcome. You are not too far gone or too far down a path that you cannot make positive changes in your life and really decide to go a completely different direction.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will mirror what Amanda says in that any type of addiction, mental health issue, anything you have, you guys need to talk it out. You need to find someone to speak to, someone to lean on, etc. Because you can't do it alone. Humans, for the most part, can't do a lot of those mental exercises alone. You gotta lean on somebody else. So do it. Reach out to people. And at the same time, remember that entrepreneurship is going to come with a ton of intensity. You have to be intense about your business, you have to be intense about your life. And when you learn how to channel it in the right way, it's going to do incredibly good things for you. So if people are telling you, hey, calm down the intensity, sometimes you just say, hey, get the fuck out of the way, motherfucker. And you continue to be intense. And, you know, if that's to your 3-year old, then just so be it. Get out of the way. But no, your intensity is your gift. There's an urgency to that. In the world nowadays, there's such a lack of urgency and such a lack of intensity that if you harness it in a wise fashion, it'll take you way further than anything else you imagine. So really focus on using that intensity for good. Go out there and fucking crush the day, guys.